Here we go for another rock and roll. We got 8 seconds to cross. Already a few hours on the march. July 4th, Special Independence Day. This Quebecer Canadian was born in the United States 3 times, once as a woman, twice as a man, served in the same United States Armed Forces. Just read Through a Glass Darkly by George Patton, and here I am on these military grade boots with the red backpack, carrying the red gloves, by which I am challenging Donald Trump to a boxing match. Have been him and will continue to add to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match. And you gotta rock and roll on the go. You got some skills, on the bike. Look at that. I gotta salute that on that one wheel. My skills are in dancing, geopolitics, and rock and roll, so I always like to counterpoise when other people have skills to show off and to display in the public, such as that magnificent kind of jump. Looked like he was swimming on just one wheel. He lifted about from there. He kind of lifted. It was like 40, because I see blur, so I don't know exactly what I calculated the distance in my mind from a time fraction of a second, and I estimated he was about 44 meters away. And then of course he started lifting up and going on one wheel, so that was quite the athletic display and quite artistic as well, So here in Montreal, Hawk Island, we gotta get that interplay. Gotta begin with gratitude, grateful, thankful, my rent's paid, electricity bill's paid, got food, got coffee, auctioning everything that I'm wearing, including the red RED gloves, which were gifted to me in about 2018, when I have been started to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match on the Canadian-US border. And of course I've been able to continue to challenge Donald Trump ever since, and of course I am and will continue to challenge Donald Trump on the Canadian-US border to fight me in a boxing match ever since 2018, when Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. And that's all we gotta get it on the drill. And now that we are on that satellites, gotta say happy 4th of July, Independence Day. But I'm a bit disappointed about the big beautiful bill. I thought it was gonna include some rebuilding of the North American inner urban cities, aka the ghettos, and raise the minimum wage a bit, things of that nature. I was hoping a little bit for that, but I guess maybe something which is gonna be able to be done in the coming future, but I'm not sure, So we're gonna get on the side here. I'm gonna wait for a bit of the transmission of the bus, and I've been for the pedestrian sidewalks, because we gotta be prudent when we cross the street. The sidewalks there, we got it on the left and on the right, and right in the middle here, we got cyclists. So it's always to be a double vigilant prudence when you're in the public. I got added responsibilities and obligations, which I don't have under the normal circumstances of that life. It's something, but now I can cross on the other side, so I'm just gonna count 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and just in time I gotta get saying with that. And that's the mess enough for my face. That's Westmount, where we were yesterday, where we admired these beautiful flowers from below the mountain as we're gonna ascend Mount Royal. Good job, public workers. Special 4th of July rock and roll special edition. I'm gonna name the states in whatever alphabetical order as the moon kisses from the goddess. Let's build on the Canadian-US border the Forgotten Goddess Temple, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, where me and Donald Trump are gonna inaugurate it by having a sports events where me and Donald Trump are gonna fight on a boxing match due to that mistake of imposing tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel. No way to invite us in such a manner by imposing tariffs. Better bake some pies. Invite us from a little bit of tourism, a little bit of tourist activity. That would be good, and counterbalancing, of course, the more economic nationalist policies, because we gotta get that bi-nationalist, get rid of the border indeed, fuse, my way best to fuse, of course, the 10, the 50, the 3 for the 63 for the empire. The empire. Of the 63 to consequently create 2 complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. This 4th of July, marching for my brothers and sisters in the 50. The bakers, the butchers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the plumbers, the electricians, the engineers, the bus drivers, those making a little bit of those sandwiches, flipping those hamburgers, cheeseburgers, fries, and double cheeseburgers, triple hamburgers, hamburgers with cheese, without cheese, with lettuce, and that's how we're gonna get drilling with that, and we gotta get doing on the go, you know. So it's always something which we have to meditate and incorporate in our daily activities and daily lives, you know. All that gratitude, and this is the one for the 50, always including my brothers and sisters, because Canada Day we did it up for that Canada Day. So always gotta be that mindfulness when you cross the street. Make sure you cross prudently and safely. I always love when I see people holding hands and hugging and doing a little bit of that loving, because otherwise what are we fighting to save civilization for? And myself now, my only stress is financial, but I think on the 4th, actually today, I was supposed to pay about $100 on my debt, but I think a counterbalance of 156 was deposited, so 156 minus 100, that means that after midnight today I will be clear to have a 56 extra dollars. I'm already in the red, by the way, but I have enough on the side to pay my phone bill. I'm gonna pay it Tuesday, and I set up a little bit of budget to go on a $5 movie with my anonymous friend, because I haven't been to the movies in months, so that's gonna be a nice summer rock and roll. That's how we're gonna get drilling with that, you know. For the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the truckers, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, you know, those bakers and those, all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and that's how we're gonna get drilling with that, and that's how we gotta get drilling with the love side of things. As we go here, I gotta give a salutation to the public workers. I really like this space here. How it was embellished, so if you don't have a garden, you gotta get it on and go for that loving, and that's how we gotta get doing for those features here. My fellow citizens sitting down, enjoying a little bit of the garden. You know, if you don't have a garden, you can take a little bit of that garden right here. So for the 50, stay celebrating. I'm gonna be celebrating with cookies. A little bit of those cookies and a little bit of those cookies, more cookies and more cookies. 4 quadruple times 4 cookies, and that's gonna be my business. But nonetheless, I love what it was done here, you know. Love what it was done here. A little bit of that. See? Not bad, you know. If you think about it, if you don't have, of course, a garden, you can come enjoy here. I mean, if you live in skyscrapers like that, you know, you don't really have that thing to go away. But that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get loving with that, and we gotta get on that love, you know. It's something which we gotta be thinking about, man. This one too I like, you know. This one is kind of nice, you know. Something which we have to be doing, and we have to be implementing, and we gotta get doing on that go, and we gotta get doing for those truckers on the road as well across the 50 states. Some, of course, gotta enter that now, enter Canada or going into the United States, the 50. How many are crossing the border on this 4th of July? I can say a number, but that number coast to coast, ocean to ocean. You know, because we got the biggest, longest undefended border, and we're going to officially, 2025 is time to end that border, create a common passport, common currency, common security service and defense force, the Dragon Legions, or the Dragon for the 63. I'm a bit disappointed, upset, moody, a bit disappointed, but somebody is kissing there, yeah. That's hope for me, HOP, double kiss, triple kiss for me too. You want to make some good loving with me, you know. Black, white, man, woman, come make some loving with me also, you know. That's how we gotta get it on the go, you know. Forget it now, you know, but that's how we're gonna get it drilled. So I always meditate, of course, all those skyscrapers. If you live there, I wonder how you see the mountain, you know. I wonder how you see the mountain from a top. If you're at the top level, if you see the mountain, how do you see it? I wonder, you know. Because I've been living in basement now, still in the basement, a bit bigger than I used to live. But I used to live in a very moldy, tight, small place. It was like a small place. It was like a prison cell. I guess I served my time, and I just remember moving. Supposedly I moved in 2015, July 1st, 2015, so it's been 10 years. I thought it was 9, but I wasn't sure, maybe 10. I said 9 or 10 I was saying, but it's confirmed 10 years, and I got RA, retrograde amnesia. I have trouble remembering. It's like blackouts of memory. My life prior to me moving there, so prior to like 2014 is just like blackouts of memory, you know. Beautiful red, my favorite color. I just remember moving. I was depressed and suicidal. I started working out, training and exercising, and that training and exercising, I was depressed for a few years, I guess 3.5, depressed, suicidal. The problem is, you know, most of my personal problem is not a problem as it was in the past years any longer, because I learned to manage and understand my difference, because I'm different, and my difference comes from this neurological mental divergent condition known as Asperger's, which is something which I live with. Asperger's, again, is not a mental illness. It is a neurological mental divergent position, but that is something which I gotta get doing with that. And that is something which I gotta get doing on that go, you know, on that go with that rock and roll, you know, something which I gotta get drilling with the red car. And we're going towards the sunset, towards the sun. You already know, sunset and sunrise. I guess somewhere in the world there's always a sunrise and always a sunset, and the moon is gonna be counterpoised on one side, and the other one is gonna be counterpoised on another. But that's another red car, and red's my favorite color, you know. That's the backpack, the gloves, the hat, and a Volkswagen. I just love that red, and I don't mean to stare, but this is the characteristics of Asperger's. Sometimes I gotta be mindful because, you know, I don't want to be rude or intend rude. It's just that I always gotta build bridges constantly with my fellow neurotypicals, of which you constitute the 99.56%, right? So compared to my community, which is a tiny fraction of the population, we constitute less than 1%, less than half of a percent, 0.44%, right? So it's always a matter of building bridges, smaller bridges, medium bridges, bigger bridges, or more super gigantic bridges, depending on the circumstances, and it varies from individual and individual. Some people have no idea. With some people I've discussed in the past days, weeks, months, and years, and some people have no idea what Asperger's is. What Asperger's is. What Asperger's is. I have no idea. I never heard of Asperger's, and I'm gonna just briefly introduce it. Fellow Aspies of the United States, they're 0.44%, and we're not antagonistic. We're not in competition. We're not against each other's interests. We have to work together, and there's no antagonistic feelings or resentful feelings. It's just that many Aspies, myself included, suffer from three main problems in the neurotypical world, which is the 99.56%, the vast majority of the population are neurotypical. So it's lack of friends. Friends with benefits only from now on, please. I don't want to waste nobody's time. Want to do some good loving, black, white, man, woman, you gotta be 18 plus. Gonna card you just like when you go to get those, whatever you get when you come here in Quebec, Canada, you know. Weed, cannabis is legal. So if you want, when you go alcohol in the States, whatever states, that's gonna be operating on the same principles. Basically, the same principles are gonna be applicable in this circumstance. If you wanna make LOV, that's just how we gotta rock and roll it, you know. So that's why we do it, you know. We're gonna go get it on the love, and gotta be 18 plus, you know. And the other problem is not many friends, lack of friends, is high depression and suicidal rates and ideation, or thoughts and feelings, disposition, I guess. And I was there prior to 2017. In summer 2017, I crossed Canada coast to coast, coast to coast, coast to coast. That event in my life in August 2017 made me come out of being depressed, come out of being suicidal. Come out of being depressed and make me come out of being depressed and being suicidal, and that got me out of being depressed and suicidal, you know. Crossing Canada coast to coast made me have a realization and awakening. I said so many things to see, to do, that I started working out, training, exercising. I started realizing and establishing a strong esprit de corps with my fellow Quebecers, Canadians, and brothers and sisters in the USA. Today I got for you rock and roll kisses on this 4th of July, and always, as I said in the past, you know, if there would ever be an invasion, I'll be the first one running to defend my brothers and sisters in the USA, I guess, regardless of the current philosophical, social, ideological, and the big beautiful bill has 4 acronyms: the big, or the OBOBOBOB, or 5 acronyms from all we can say. And I was expecting a little bit of healthcare. We gotta finance healthcare, my brothers and sisters, and you can retract and do some changes, but healthcare gotta be a public-private partnership for the future, you know. My brothers and sisters are millionaires, billionaires, and gotta step up. So this 4th of July, I can only give some kisses, because you know we gotta God bless the empire, but we gotta goddess kiss that empire as well. Canada, United States, Democratic Republican fusion, my way to fuse Canada, United States best in the North American Collective, the Democratic Republic, you know, the North American Collective. And so we gotta get on that go, and that's how we gotta get it on that drill, you know, for the left and right, and for the butchers, the bakers, and the nurses, the doctors, and firefighters, plumbers, electricians, and get that red, my favorite color. We need a few hundred of those mobile trucks, and for the Imperial SSD Legion, which we're gonna create via my DRT theory, and the new 911 Dragon Army Total S, Total D, Total Security, Total Service, Total Defense Complex. And I got some kisses, got some hugs for all the 340 million brothers and sisters in the USA. Maybe I'm gonna start with Alabama, go all the way to W, Wyoming. Where's the B? State with the B. You gotta jump, because Alabama, Arkansas, you got double A. Gotta jump to C, Colorado. You gotta jump to D, Delaware. E, no E. F, you gotta jump to Florida. L, Louisiana. M, Minnesota. N, Nebraska. P with PP, Pennsylvania. You got O, Oregon. Ohio, you got double trouble with that O, right? Ohio, Oregon. Hey, I would win against Trump on the states, eh? I would win with Trump on the states, you know, on the states appellation. Look at these beautiful flowers here. And of course, just 2 weeks ago, there were different sorts, and now you can see that they changed it. And I gotta say, I kind of love the blue with the white. It's kind of nice and embellishments, and it's kind of give a little bit of credit to the public workers, you know. Kind of like the job that they did here is something which you gotta appreciate, you know. Public workers, beautiful blue. It's kind of like a more purple, a little bit of purple flowers, you know. So something which we gotta be mindful of here, that it's a privilege. And just going to downtown core area of Montreal, we gotta get that HYDERATE, gotta get that hydration, and we're gonna send up on the go. And here we go, cross the street prudently, for the left, for the right, for the fellow citizens. And another problem with Asperger's, of course, is the high, way too high. Totally unacceptable that 80% of Aspies like myself, people who have Asperger's, also known as HFA, are unemployed. Compute that number statistically, 4 out of 5. That's 0.8%. That's 80%. That's 11 times higher than the majority. 11 times higher. And I'll say it again, it's 11 times higher than the majority. It's unacceptable. Myself, I've had many jobs, many employments, especially during COVID. I still applied to a few jobs. I got no responses. I'm still on the process for some employment because there was a strike and they were no longer needing that position to be filled and other consequential things. But in the domain which we are today, 11 times higher than the majority of the population, which are you, 99%, 99.56, because we're 0.44%. So keeping that in mind, that the percentage of unemployment is so high. So being that the percentage of unemployment is so high, I gotta give a shout out to my fellow Aspies, of course, who sent $25.44. $25.44 September as a donation. As a donation, I says that it's better if I pause and go on the left side because I got that big backpack and I guess I get wide up with that. WIDE. Got all sorts of cars, all sorts of architecture. This is new here. Second phase, give my anonymous friend a house. Anywhere on the island, we can split 50-50, half with me. And my anonymous friend, who wasn't my friend because of the money, because I never had any. Actually, I was laughing today with a friend. I said, because, of course, why did I move down there? And I said, why did I move? I said, I moved. And, of course, the moving was the proposition, of course, that I moved there with nothing. Because I had nothing, I really had nothing. Which, of course, got to be on the go. And that's what we're going to get doing with that. And they're going to get, of course, a little bit of that. Left, right, and Z, and I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, and that's the main triple trinity of problems which Aspies usually encounter in our daily lives, our routines. The lack of friends, high depression, suicidal ideation tendencies and rates, and very high unemployment. It's unacceptable 11 times. It's 0.8, which is equivalent of a unit. 80%, 11 times higher. 4 out of 5 Aspies are unemployed. 8 out of 10, 80 out of 100. So it's totally unacceptable that this is so in the category, of course, of the analysis where we have now the proposition of where we go left and right, and of course where we are to slide ourselves as the neurodivergent community of which we are, as we are moving towards integration in the neurotypical world. So it's about building bridges. We lack, myself included, certain social awareness skills of a social nature where our communication can seem rather strange, bizarre, and awkward. And again, Asperger's, the most important thing of some of the more important things to know is that Asperger's is not a mental illness. As I gaze upon that beautiful downtown Korea, Montreal, my brothers and sisters in the 50, from Alabama, Florida, Massachusetts, gonna go to TTT, that Tennessee, to New York, to California, California, and of course Colorado, and the Delaware, and of course New Hampshire, and of course we're gonna go by Dakota, the south and the north, North Carolina, South Carolina, whatever, of course, the inclination you get. South Carolina, North Carolina being the 4th of July, which we are encountering now to get it on the go. That's how we gotta get doing on that one. We're gonna get it on the left, right, Z, and that's how we got, you know. Sometimes which we have to be circumventional and do meditate and do integrate all our characteristics and awkward, weird behavior sometimes in the complex, where of course we have some things to add as well, where we have certain things of great value and great contribution, especially when it comes to our special interests. And of course those special interests usually preoccupy our daily routines with intensity, super focus, super concentration when we are involved in those special interests, of which my holy trinity is geopolitics 24/7. Sports and fitness, dancing is my favorite sport, and of course sports and fitness, dancing being my favorite sport, and of course rock and roll. So I am constantly involved in a ritualized routine. We have this Asperger's, Aspie routines, where we have to be involved in those areas which are known as our special interest, also known as obsessive interest, although utilizing the word obsessive does not render justice to myself as an Aspie and my fellow Aspies, how we relate to our special interests, whence, whereas we can be super focused, super concentrated, super intense, super dedicated when we are involved, of course, in those special interests, when we are involved in them. And those special interests makes us that we are, of course, directly super focused whenever we are involved in those. It varies from Aspie to Aspie. It can be that an Aspie knows cars, automobiles is the special interest, and an Aspie would be able, of course, to know and let you know everything, anything, with details about the cars. So being that my special interest are my holy trinity of geopolitics, sports, fitness, dancing is my favorite sport, and rock and roll, we're gonna get a little bit of that 4th of July special geopolitics, my brothers and sisters, to move forward in the North American Collective and the brothers and sisters in the 50 states. You have to mass finance a little bit of that population wellness by, of course, the mobilization of and the mass financing of public health activities such as fitness and tourism. You know, we gotta get more moralized, you know, and more moralized, and we're gonna have this Imperial Democratic Republican Party, aka Phoenix People's Party, aka the North American Collective Workers Party, where we're gonna work to fuse Canada and United States in a public-private partnership best, you know. Gotta salute the nurses, the doctors in the 50 states, my brothers and sisters in the USA, the plumbers, the electricians, the welders, the bakers. Every marching step now today taken is from my brothers and sisters in the 50, because it's a 4th of July special. And just like George Patton also believed in reincarnation, I know some of my reincarnation part-time a little bit more blurred than others. Three Glass Darkly, one of my favorite poems written by George Patton, the general, of course, of the Second World War, where of course, he believed in reincarnations as well. And I served two different wars, but in the same, of course, U.S. Army, 156 years apart, and that's what's gonna be with that. And served it 2 years apart, and that's how we're gonna get doing on that rock and roll, you know. So something which we gotta be inclined to manifest, you know, for the left and the right, and the butchers, the bakers, and the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, and electricians, and the plumbers, and the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the electricians, the plumbers, the bakers, the nurses, the firefighters, the electricians, the firefighters as well. You gotta take care of a little bit of those flipping some burgers and all those involved in the production, distribution of food. And that's how we gotta get that rock and rolling, you know, all the way to the mountain, my second home. Beautiful trees you can see among the concrete jungle. Sometimes you just gotta look up and, You know, see that amazing looking trees right there. I'm sure in the 50 states you got plenty, so do that sometimes. Encourage you all to fitness. My fitness journey began after I get out of that depression. By crossing Canada coast to coast, I established a strong esprit de corps with my fellow brothers and sisters in Canada, Quebec. They're our family, and my brothers and sisters are also family. But you know, if I run to defend, if there's ever an invasion of the USA, I'll be running towards the border that way, south from Montreal, aka Hawk Island. But I would say I hope somebody making some good loving, you know. Whether in the White House, in the Congress, on the streets, that's my only requirement. Otherwise, I'll volunteer, because it's not all about the paper. It's not all about the money. Now the majority of the population is financially stressed. So to my brothers and sisters in the 50 states, along my brothers and sisters in Canada, the 10 provinces and the 3 territories, besides the trillions of kisses, I put on the table, of course, the trillions of kisses. I put on the table you got it. Put on the table the DRT, the debt refusion tree, which consequently, paradoxically, comes out of the curse of Asperger's in many ways, having suffered and struggled and all the XYZs as I've been, of course, on the level of understanding my difference. And I've been diagnosed with several people for many years. But I've refused it for a long time because, you know, having the label, the stigma of the as an Asperger's, there's more and more demystification and more knowledge and wisdom and understanding as relating to this neurological divergent condition, which is not NOT, not a mental illness. It's just a factorial representation of the word that we use, of course, and what the characteristics are and how we are different and how we see the world different and how we interact in sometimes odd, weird, bizarre, eccentric, odd, weird, bizarre, eccentric manner with the world. So that is Asperger's. Not a mental illness, neurological mental divergent condition, not to be confused with a mental illness, not to be equated as a mental illness, and not to be labeled so. It certainly has its downs, it certainly has it's a work in progress in certain things, it always is, and there's no medication for Asperger's, it's only management of the characteristics, not symptoms. Again, not symptoms. Symptoms is for an illness, whether bodily illness or psychological illness. Well, Asperger's is not an illness, it is just a neurological mental divergent condition. We have Asperger's, parts of our brains have these mutations, not outwardly visible at the exterior level of the brain. Beautiful flowers there, purple, dark purple. But internally, at the microscopic level, there's mutations, and those mutations account for how we process and interact with the world in several layers. So, happy 4th of July to my brothers and sisters, Aspies, in the 50 states, and of course to my fellow brothers and sisters on the 50 states who are also LGBTQ with that, and that's what we gotta get doing with the XYZ, and to get on that love burst, to get it on the go, and that's how we're gonna get drilling to go up, you know, up and down here on the level, and we're gonna go up all the way to the top, and we're gonna go all the way to the top to get it love, and that's how we're gonna get it all the way to the top, you know, to get it on the left and on the right, and that's how we're gonna get doing for the butchers, the bakers, and the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food, and that's how we're gonna get drilling here, you know. Yeah, gonna enter by the side. See here, you got a lot of ways to get in, see? You got a lot of ways to get in, you know? And here, that's where we go up. Yeah, anybody want to finance? They go up and down, you know? Up and down, up and down, up and down. Up and down. Up and down these stairs. up and down these stairs, you know, up and down, up and down, up and down these stairs, 300 times, you know, 300 times, 300 times. Wow, I can go up and down those stairs 300 times, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that. And and out here, you can see here, that's the air fresh and changes, and here you got my mistress, not just mine, but the forest on the mountain here, the mistress, the forest on the mountain, auctioning everything I'm wearing on these rocks here, you know, the mistress on the mountain here as we go, and that's where we're going all the way up. And who wants to, it's first time this year that we go by this side. There's so many ways that you can enter all around Mount Royal, my second home, the mountain, my doctor, my second home, Mount Royal here, the Belvedere Conjurenac at top, barrier third of me at the back there. And anybody want to finance that? Down these stairs, you know, 300 times for $300, because I'm financially stressed, but always open for commission, business. 1980. More than 44 years ago. It could be, depending what month, it could be 45, right? If it was a month like today, July 4th, 1980, that would be 45 years today. If it was September 11th, 1980, that means that's gonna be for it's 44, almost 45 years. And it's of course October 24th, it could be also 44 years and a few months. If it's of course December 1st, it's 44 years also in a few months. So yeah, for the 4th of July, and hopefully somebody making that LOV, and that's what it is with that. And that's how we gotta get that rock and rolling, you know. And you gotta keep on left and right, and on the left and on the right, and in the middle right there, and something which we gotta be implementing about, and make sure we got a little bit of that loving. Another stair here, you know, all these stairs I can go up and down full with the boxing gloves, by which I have been and will continue to challenge Donald Trump to a boxing match ever since Donald Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel back in 2018, and with the new recent tariffs. And I believe the deadline's coming up, announcement of some other tariffs, so trade war might intensify. And I gotta say, as an independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and strategist for the North American Collective, that I predicted what I predicted an international conflagration, of course, back in 2019. I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. And we're gonna go around the about and enter the mountain there. Usually this is the main road, but we like to go squeeze in like a snake. Not all snakes are bad, huh? Some are bad, some are good. Take snakes and snakes and snakes and snakes. Some are black, white, some are white, some are black, some are rainbow. What a favorite color, red snake. It was a character in it was a movie called, you know, called, of course, something which we have to say was 1980 something, 1986. Escape from New York and Escape from LA comes to mind. I don't know, for some reason I watched it during COVID, right? I had COVID, by the way. I encourage you all to stay hydrated, you know, and stay hydrated with that. And that's what we gotta get doing on the left and on the right. And we're gonna get on that circumcision and circumvision. I meant circumvision. When I say circumvision, I usually denote, of course, the multiple parallels, integrals of my geopolitical analysis, which sometimes can be complex and analytical and more scholarly academic, but suffice it to say that I predicted what's happening now, what's been happening in the past 3.5 years, you know. I predicted it in 2019, October, November. I have proof of work. That's what I am as well as an artist, athlete, and philosopher and mystic. Also, I am a proud independent geopolitical theoretical analyst and theorist and a strategist. On this 4th of July, goddess kiss, God bless. God bless, goddess kiss. The coming empire together. We're gonna, Democratic Republic, we're gonna do some good, loving business, and we're gonna get that coast to coast and ocean to ocean. I'm just gonna go because I want to see the sun. Usually I go either by this side or that side, but I'm curious now because it's sunset, and if I go by the side there where the sun is gonna be, and I just want to do some of those sunset meditations, you know, and that's what we're gonna get doing on that sunset meditation. So that is something which we have to do, my brothers and sisters. Canada, United States, we got to do a great census, a great audit of the population, audit and census. And I don't have much. I moved there, of course, with nothing with that, and that's how we got the left and the right inside the categories of the premise of which we have, and of course the categories of which we are allowed to express ourselves here in the North American Collectif. As myself as neurodivergent, and to send some loving for the 50 states. New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine are the closest on the East Coast. As we go down by Georgia. How about Fulton County? I wouldn't mind having a house in Fulton County. Across the 50 states, actually. Not a house were to be open for the Dragon Army, though, you know. So when I go as the general, the Dragon Army, across the 50 states, 10 provinces, 3 territories. So common use type of house. And of course here in Montreal, we're gonna build 2 more complexes, 11 times bigger than the Pentagon in the 21st century, for total security, total service, total defense, and 1 in the Rocky Mountains, which of course cross from Alberta down south into the United States, right? So we're gonna build together, rebuild our infrastructure, and some of this 4th of July. Someone's making love now across the 50. Somebody's hugging good. Hug like you never hugged before, my brothers and sisters. My children. I don't have any children of my own, but guess you gotta get that 50-50. Being that I am androgynous, pansexual, you know, part of the LGBTQ community, as well as being part of the neurodivergent community. So gotta give a shout out also to the public security workers. Sending some love. Public security workers. I'm no Trump supporter. I have been, of course, and is something which we have to be doing with that, and is something which we have to be doing on that, and we have to be consequently mindful, of course, that that's something which we have to be doing, and that's something which we have to be implementing on a constant basis, you know, that we have to be mindful, you know, that we have to be always in a manner where we are mindful. But this mindfulness also has to be, when I say usually mindful, fait que c'est dans cette que je dis, when I say that, is of course part of my philosophy thesis, actually, the privilege of civilization, which I started orally discussing in February 2023. Of course, right before the Russia-Ukraine invasion, and I gotta go back to that because when I usually say mindfulness, I usually refer, of course, to the mindfulness, which of course has to be doing about the privilege of civilization, about the privilege of civilization, and that's how we gotta get doing on that, Gotta get doing on that drill, That's what we got. That's all we got. And then consequentially, oh, the crows, yes, finally. 4 times. Craw, craw. Craw, 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 craw. You heard that 4 times again? Craw, 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 craw. One for me, maybe one for my shadow. One for me, maybe one for my shadow. One for me, maybe one for my shadow. One for me, one for my shadow. One for me, one for my shadow. One for me, one for my shadow. Twice, 4 times, Wow. But that was a consequential, again. The crows know my secrets, yes, I know. I know. Tick. The 3rd time for the legions, for the dream. The empire. The kingdom, the crows rose, so that's a good omen. It's a good omen. So we're gonna create the Dragon Army, aka North American Imperial SSD Legion, based on my new 911 Dragon Army protocols. Dragon Army protocols, and that's how we're gonna get doing with that. And the Dragon Army protocols, we're gonna get on that XYZ, and that's how we're gonna circumspect about, something which check that sunset and gonna go round about it, and that's how we're gonna be on that appellation of the sun. And yo, boom, yo, she like coffee, sleep, makeup. No. Not really. I'm playing around, man. I'm playing around, man. So we gotta get drilling, man. I think truth is we don't need much but the fusion of the United States and Canada, and then we have everything for the 21st century in terms of the collective, which we have to be integrated and we have to mobilize the public private partnership manner on this 4th of July. 4th of July. She like to. So I predicted what's happening now back in 2019. In 2019 I predicted what's happening now. October, November, you know, so just to summarize, my prediction was that, of course, due to many unresolved 20th century conflicts of the Second World War, after post-Second World War, 20th century, when, of course, the Soviet Union, of course, partook, of course, of the Cold War between the Soviet Union and China, other socialist, communist, of course, states, which we have to be included in. We have to be drilling on that, and we gotta get doing on the left, right, and Z, and that's how I have to mention again, because it's so super important, you know, that we have to get it on the side of things, and that's how we gotta get doing on that. So basically, the consequential elements of that Second World War period was that I concluded that those unresolved conflicts are gonna restart, in the 21st century, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, you know. So something which we have, you know. So that is basically what's been happening, you know. That's been happening. Interesting, yeah. Anyways, that's why they gotta do it like that, and that's why we gotta get drilling, man. So basically, this 20th century was something of quite immense, a long term, of course. It took almost 45 years, eh? Think about it, 45 years, and that's how we gotta get drilling with that, and so we gotta get on the left, you know. That's about 44.9, you know, 44 years and 9 months. 44 years and 9 months, you know. That's so we gotta get drilling on that, and we gotta get on that loving, you know, to get it on the left and on the right and on the Z, you know. Something which we have to be mindful about, and we gotta get it. Now, see, look at that. Look at the heavens. See? The heavens. You know? Full. No, wait. Full. Oh yes. So where we want to reach. Doing, you know. Usually I wait about 10 seconds, 20 seconds to get it in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You get. So basically, of course, my prediction was that, of course, my prediction was, of course, that they're gonna get on the go, and that, of course, these unresolved conflicts are, of course, going to be, of course, those conflicts were not resolved fully of the 20th century during the Cold War period, and due to those unresolved conflicts, those conflicts are going to reignite in the 21st century. So that was the premise and the most consequential of the more in-depth scholarly academic, of course, analysis, just to make it a summary. So that is, of course, the summary of what consequentially always all about. And consequently, the prediction was revolved around that situation, which, of course, the situation was a very complex and long-term geopolitical war in a way, right? The Cold War period was several levels of warfare and espionage and sabotage and intra-war and, of course, proxy wars, etc., 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 etc. But nonetheless, that was my prediction back in 2019. And if you look, for the most part, if Russia-Ukraine is a conflict which dates from the Cold War period, which lasted between 1947 and 1991, which of course almost 45 years, and consequently as well, the other conflicts in the Middle East, Hamas is an institution army or institution, whatever you want to call it, institution with an army, organization with an armed militant faction, right? Paramilitary, we're going to dominate, militant group, etc., 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 was founded in the 1980s during the Cold War. Right, during the Cold War. Another conflict from the Cold War is, of course, India and Pakistan, which was just last month. We were thinking that it was going to escalate, and Iran, Israel is also 20th century Cold War period conflict, which did not fully find a resolution. And if you look, of course, at the recent conflict, you see that a little bit of knowledge information that it dates actually from the inception or the beginning of the current Iranian regime, the Islamic Republic of Iran's commencement, beginning after it was the overthrow the Shah, 11th of February 1979. So 11th of February 1979, 11th of February 1979 was, of course, the Cold War was ongoing, and of course USSR also, don't forget, invaded Afghanistan, right? Afghanistan was in the 80s. There was the USSR. After USSR dissolved and Russia took all the nukes, and 15 socialist Soviet republics became independent republics, of which Ukraine and Belarus, Moldova tried an unsuccessful reunification post December 26, 1991 with Romania, right? Because before they had their greater Romania and in the 20th century, before socialism, communism, but I'm not going to delve into Balkan Balkan geopolitics, but it's I know Balkan geopolitics as well because it's part of the 20th century, but I specialize in the 20th century, mostly Cold War period, but even before. And of course we have to know that a big part of Romania, a large part of what's Transylvania was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, right? Until 1918, don't forget that. Austro-Hungarian Empire was a big empire prior to 1919, before it got dissolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire after the end of the First World War, right? Austro-Hungarian Empire included a big part of what's present-day Romania and Transylvania, the western part, west, northwest, a bit of the south as well. A big part, maybe a third even, in terms of geographical space. So those also are not fully resolved conflicts. Like I always say, I'm a Quebecer, Canadian, North American person. This is my home, you know. I do not consider myself a member of a diaspora, but this is also a new world in many ways, because it's not totally divorced, you know, but is distinct from Western civilization. It's not totally divorced, but is distinct from Western civilization. So it's not totally divorced, but is distinct, you know, from Western civilization. So it has those distinctions, but it's not totally divorced from Western civilization. So basically, those are the main appellations which you have to remind yourself as I gaze towards the beautiful sunset there on the side. So now I will not tardy, but I will of course sing some of that good DRT theory, as I said before I forget it. The DRT theory, then we're gonna go 11 minutes in French, and then we're gonna sing rock and roll for marching dragon cadence for the 4th of July, because I am calling for the fusion of Canada and the United States in the 63 Imperial to sign on September 11th, September 11th or before, or ASAP. The new Public-Private Partnership Act for the fusion of Canada and the United States, the Perpetual Imperial Union Act. So it's amendments to the Constitution, and it's now 51. Donald Trump, it's a dragon versus Trump to build a 444, which I will to build, you know. And it's 13, gonna be 13 new ones at once. Just like, be careful guys, there's very steep. And if you're not aware, sometimes if it's windy, the branches, you're at risk, so the branches might fall. So if you venture and you stay a lot in the forest, because this is like my second home, so sometimes there's, yeah, you can explore, but be careful because it's steep and there's muddy there.
To the parking lot, but we don't know how.
Like in theory, if you want, you can go here, just go slow and on the knees like that, bend your knees. So this takes you straight to the parking lot. Yeah. It's just, if you never took it, just be careful because there's an added risk. There's an added risk, guys. Bye, be safe. You're welcome. There's an added risk, man. It's steep, you know, so that's why we have to be careful if they never took it, you know. My fellow brothers and sisters here from wherever they come from, as you come here, you're like my brother, cousins, sisters, and you're on the mountain, and that's why we have to be aware that it's steep. And first time they're gonna do it, I guess, because it's also night, and they weren't sure. They were checking their phone, and I kind of heard a bit of the conversation. They said they're not really sure, so I kind of made an assessment that they never crossed that path, as I have taken it for many years. This is my second home, so I know the ins and outs of the mountain, you know. I guess better create the Dragon Army, Canada and United States joint armed forces. Don't send the Marines here, because I was served in the United States 2 wars, 156 years apart as the wars were, and you're gonna get it from guerrilla warfare from here, from a free, a strong, a rainbow dragon, General Cuckold, aka Limdick Dicklet. I'll be seeing some good loving, you know, that big headset. making some good loving with Pam Bondi, or no wait, Hexet is not married to Pam Bondi, or Hexet is not married to Pam Bondi, correction. And Pete Hexet is not married with Tulsi Gabbard either. I was gonna say Tulsi Gabbard, but all three of you can come make some good loving to me, eh? Anytime. We're gonna get that centrism. Anyways, that's all we gotta get on that loving side of things, and we gotta get on that love side of things for the left, for the right, and for the butchers, for the left, and for the truckers, and all those, of course, involved in production, distribution of food, and that's how we got getting to it with that, and that's why I'm gonna discuss the DRT, you know, the debt refusion for the creation, of course, of the universal exchange unit. That's how we're gonna get doing on that, and that's how we're gonna get doing on the left and on the right side of things. We're gonna get it on the butchers and the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, and all those involved in the production, distribution of food. Here's what we're gonna get drilling on that. We're gonna get on that love side of things, you know, to get it on the XYZ, and that's what I'm happy, joyous here, you know. This is love coming here, really. Just be careful, you know, because you got, of course, some falling branches, and you gotta venture up, and gonna go over there and discuss my DRT theory. Actually, it's super important that I discuss the DRT theory now. Fusion theory, you know, the debt fusion theory for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange. And this is my gift for both the 63 Canada, United States, and of course, whatever the case may be. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt. Remember, I said. So we're gonna get doing, you know, so we're gonna get it on their go, you know. So it's something which we have to be. The DRT, debt refusion theory. Debt refusion theory. DRT, debt refusion theory for the creation of the UE, of the universal exchange. Murder. Yes. So that's what we have to be implementing, actually, the DRT theory, you know, debt refusion theory, you know, for the creation of the UE. Why do I make that statement? Due to the fact that we now have reached, both Canada and the United States, a consequential critical point where the public debt, the public and the private debt, is of course at a sky-high level. And this sky-high level is both for the public and the private. That's when the BBBL, big beautiful bill for letter acronyms, whatever. The big, should have integrated something for raising the minimum wage, and the billionaire class don't need more tax cuts, but mass investing in healthcare and mass investing in tourism. and financing people, citizens for fitness best. My Trinity, my centrism is democratic Republican, right? I'm a democratic Republican, I'm a pro-labor, I love universal revolutionary centrism. But my universal revolutionary centrism is only for the fusion of Canada and the United States and the Imperial 63. For total S, total D, total security, total service, total defense, via the four-dimension love. That's what we gotta get doing, and we gotta be implementing it as soon as possible, because we are on the verge of a financial collapse and a catastrophe. So the DRT, we have to implement something similar, if not my DRT theory per se. And in my DRT theory, of course, you have to understand and know that in my DRT theory is integrated monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented, that is, in the European Union, in a parallel life. See this big antenna, that's radio television. Sometimes when we are outside of the mountain and far off, from miles and miles and kilometers away, I point towards it, to the mountain. And when we're by the river and the moon and that one as well. See that tower, radio telecommunication and TV and radio towers, and maybe it's got some satellites connected. Good question. In a parallel life, I know supercomputers, satellites, microchips, science, technology, coding, supercomputers, and in this life, I know geopolitics, sports, fitness, and rock and roll, So in that parallel life, I'm also an Aspian. Paradoxically, due to this Asperger's, I present the DRT theory, the lateral fusion theory, of course, which has to be consequently made, of course, the DRT theory for the creation of the UE, the universal exchange. So the DRT, of course, the lateral fusion theory, integrates monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union, right? Keep that in mind. And of course the Europeans, the Germans, the French, the Italians, the Belgians, many countries destroyed their national central banks. They no longer have national central banks. They no longer have national central banks as they did in the past. You're gonna turn left and right and take a good look here at this city. Look at a beautiful sky. Looks like a paint. Somebody has painted. Can't see the sun exactly, but I'm gonna do a little bit of solar salutations. Yes, the sun is always setting. Sun is always setting. I'm just gonna spread the wings a bit and always do a little bit of sun meditations here. The sun is always setting, always rising every second. Hey, think about that. So there's always a sunset and always a sunrise every second. There's always a sunrise somewhere. Always a sunset, always a sunrise. Every second in the world. Every second in the world there's a sunset and a sunrise. Now, of course, we got the time zones. 3 hours, it's Vancouver, BC. What's happening in San Francisco? What's happening on the West Coast? You got to deduct 3 hours, so you still got a lot of sunrise. Sun. In California, you got about 4 more hours of it, So that's something which we're not totally conscious, but every second there's a sunset and a sunrise now. So somewhere in the world the sun is setting, as it's setting here in Hokkaido, Montreal, and somewhere in the world the sun is rising. Always. It's always the same. 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 That's what it is. It's always a sunset and a sunrise. Keep that in mind. That's super important. And you don't have to constantly feel about it, but now we got some more fireflies, we got some more fireflies here, but it's constantly a sunset and a sunrise. We gotta get it on the go, So as you can see, the beautiful sunset here. So keep that in mind. So back to the DRT, it integrates monetary integration theory, which is the financial theory, which was implemented in the European Union. The financial theory, which was implemented in the European Union. Oh, somebody dropped this maybe. I think somebody tried to eat it. He's gonna get sick if he eats through this. Gonna disinfect my hands because I don't know, because microbes, bacteria, germs exist, you know. So not to be. I keep the protocols of the public hygienic protocols which were implemented during the coronavirus, which I had, by the way. COVID for me was like death, pestilence, and disease. I thought I was gonna die during COVID. I was struck. I thought I was gonna die. I said, that's it for me. Hey, look, so fireflies gonna guide us. Wow, I never seen. It's been years and years and years I haven't seen fireflies like this. I guess nature is restarting. So yours truly, of course, in the consequential prudence of which we have, you know, we gotta be implementing on that, and we gotta be drilling here as we go up and down, and that's what we gotta be conscious and mindful of, you know. So basically, and in primordial, of course, the Europeans destroyed the national central banks in the 90s. They created the ECB, the European Central Bank, and of course the European Central Bank now issues the euro. The euro. So that euro is actually pretty high nowadays, you know. One euro is, of course, $1.56. Something like that. I'm not exactly sure the exchange rate, to be honest. It could be 144, so I don't know for sure. But that is something which you got to be consequently keeping in mind, right? So, as I said, there's always a sunset and a sunrise. Every second is a sunset and a sunrise. And if it comes here, you know, during the dark, let's be careful, because of course branches fall sometimes, you know, from heaven. If it's windy, you just got to be prudent, you know. Because there's not that many lights, but I see in the dark, you know, so I don't mind. I see in the dark with that, and that's how we gotta get doing with that, and that's how we gotta get drilling on the go. We gotta get on the XYZ, and we gotta get on the left side of things, you know, for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, and the firefighters, and all those electricians, of course, involved in the production, distribution of food. We got some party. And here we're just gonna check it out before we're gonna get to the total mobile defense theory. We're gonna check a little bit of that party. Sabbath starts at midnight, by the way. Sabbath starts at midnight, you know. Sabbath starts at midnight. Here's another way you can check, you know. You can check a little bit, and you can check the south. Well, actually, you can't see the south that much. But you can see the south, the east, more the east, but you can see the south there. But you can see also the east, you know, the east side, and there's somebody playing some of that music. So it's a nice spot. You have some yellow flowers if you want to come, you know, make out. So it's gonna clear the way if somebody wants to go there and make out, you know. So the Europeans implemented the DRT, you know, the detrofusion theory, and that's how it's gonna be with that, and that's how we're gonna go drilling, you know. So the detrofusion theory for the creation of the U, you know, we're gonna take, of course, all the public and the private, of course, ideations, and that's what it is with that, you know. Here's I got Anyways, so the DRT, detrofusion theory, of course, for the creation of the UE, we're gonna have to be circumstantial about, and gonna have to be on the mindfulness of the things which we have to be looking about. Because now I'm on marching steps, you know. It's not marching steps for the left and for the right, and for the butchers, and for the bakers, and for the nurses, and for the firefighters, and all those involved in the production and distribution of food. And that's how we're gonna get doing on that drill with the fireflies here. So the debt refusion theory was, of course, the theory which the Europeans, of course, implemented in the European Union, and that's what it is with that. In the European Union, they destroyed their national central banks and they implemented the monetary integration theory. So my theory, in my theory, the DRT is integrated in monetary integration theory. Here's another spot which you can come and check the south there, check the beautiful city. So just gonna stretch a bit the legs on this, and so my DRT debt refusion theory integrates, of course, monetary integration theory is integrated in my theory, and of course we're gonna implement it because it's consequentially the theory to be implemented due to the fact that, of course, many citizens now, the public and the private, is of course both in a stress. So financial stress, myself always, of course, is somebody who's financially stressed. My only stress being financial at the moment, being $10,000 in debt. That is my only stress at the moment. So stretching a little bit, we're gonna get that DRT. So the debt refusion theory consequently, of course, integrates monetary integration theory, and the monetary integration theory is, of course, the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union, and that's what it is with that. And that's how we're gonna get doing on the left and on the Z, and on the right and in the left, and on the left and on the right, you know. That's how we gotta get doing on those butchers and those bakers and the nurses and the firefighters, and that's what it is here for that. And we're gonna get it on the drill to get it XYZ, and my fellow citizens there to get it on the butchers and the bakers and the nurses and the doctors and all those which we got on the XYZ, and that's all we have, you know. So we gotta get on that rock and roll, you know. That's what we got, and so we got it on the drill, you know. So we got it on the debt refusion theory, you know, as we go now, you know, to get it on this beautiful day. Just getting a bit cooler, but I think I'll be fine. At this pace, I'm keeping my body warm by keeping it high pace marching. Let's go, Dragon Army. DRT debt refusion theory. The DRT debt refusion theory consequently integrates monetary integration theory. Monetary integration theory is the financial theory which was implemented in the European Union. They created the ECB, European Central Bank, but we're gonna create a bank of our own here when we're gonna fuse Canada and the United States, get rid of the board, create a common currency and a common passport, and the new 63 Imperial SSD Legions, aka the Dragon Army, complementary covenant with the Dancing Goddess Army, aka the North American Integrated Dance League. That's how we're gonna get drilling, and that's how we're gonna get doing. So let's go on the rock and roll. Let's go on the rock and roll. Let's go on the rock and roll. Let's go on the rock and on the roll. That's how we're gonna get drilling, and that's how we're gonna get appellations, you know. So that's how we're gonna get explained now. So we're gonna take all the public and the private debt, my $10,000 to the RBC, yours coast to coast, ocean to ocean, all that debt, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, my debt, your debt. Of course, we're gonna convert it into US dollars. We're gonna add it with the US dollars. So we're gonna add all the public-private debt together. All that money is gonna be the initial money supply, but we're gonna add it with the public and the private debt of the United States, because we have to implement it binationally for the bipolar geopolitical strategy for the 21st century total imperial dominion by the fusion of the Canada and United States thereof into the new democratic republic for the new United Super States of America. And of course, we're gonna fuse the North and the South, that is Canada and United States, together into 63. It's 13. new states we're gonna add, and we're gonna do the 21st century new constitution, imperial constitution, of course. Gonna advise if presidency can be to serve either 1 6-year term or 3 6-year terms, and whatever the case may be for the future. Consequently, like Mexico has a sexennia, right? A 6-year term. And of course, that's something which we're gonna finally do, the public-private partnership, of course, and the DRT has to be implemented because the majority of the population, of course, of course, now, the majority of the population has, myself included, I don't have credit cards, but there's a record-breaking credit card debt, There's record-breaking credit card debt across both Canada and the United States, and this record credit card debt cannot be sustained. Consequently, it cannot be sustained. That's why I gotta be implementing my DRT theory, because we're on the verge of a public financial collapse, We're on the verge of a public financial collapse. And the public, of course, finances are in big trouble because of the COVID. 5 years of COVID have made it that we had to implement several programs and strategy. That is my favorite skyscraper, by the way. The pyramid. My favorite skyscraper here, the pyramid. Now that my finger's pointing south to the 50 states, LOV, rock and roll, fireworks, and fireflies, and my kisses, rock and roll, and my DRT theory for the collective and for the United States, Canada, binational strategy, bipolar strategy, not to be confused with the bipolar psychiatric mental disorder, but of course, the bipolar is in my bipolar strategy for the new bipolar world order, where we're gonna have the imperial perpetual union of Canada and United States for the 21st century, total dominance of the geopolitical world. As you see this beautiful city, one of the top cities in the world, my home in this life and in another life, and suffer, struggle, depressed, suicidal, pledge allegiance, friends with benefits only, pledge your allegiance. That's my favorite skyscrapers for the butchers, the bakers, the nurses, the doctors, firefighters, plumbers, electricians, those labeling, doing that 3G, 4G, 5G towers now across the 63. We need to do a great census by the debt refusion tree implementing. We're going to salvage the population and implement my bipolar geopolitical strategy for the 21st century, total imperial dominion of via the fusion of Canada and the United States into the new world order for the 21st century imperial SSD allegiance. We're going to take all the public and the private debt, We're going to convert that public and the private debt into US dollars. So all the public and the private debt, we're going to convert it into US dollars. All the public and the private debt. I had it with the United States public debt and private debt because we have to do my DRT theory or something very similar. We have to implement either my debt refusion theory, as I stated, as I declared, as I presented on the table, or something very similar. That's what you have to understand, because the prices keep going up. The prices increase every day. Even today, I went to spend $5 on some sweets, and that's what we gotta get doing on the go. That's what we gotta get doing on the left and on the right, and on the Z and in the right and in the middle. But the prices keep increasing. It's a constant. Look at this, so many it's been years and years I've seen past life fireflies were present, but it's back to life post-COVID, just like we will be financially, economically, commercially, by the DRT, via the implementation of the DRT as the bipolar strategy for the fusion of Canada and the United States, for imperial security service and defense dominance of the 21st century politics by fusing Canada and the United States. So all the public-private debt, and again, we have to, because prices keep increasing every day, every week, every month, every day. Prices keep increasing. While the prices are increasing, the salaries are stagnating. That's why there's more and more strikes, labor strikes. That's why I'm upset, disappointed, a bit moody, and quite disillusioned by the bill. I have to study it more. I say we have to do a counter bill with it, as we're gonna fuse. Let's do it September 11th and my DRT theory. And by my DRT theory, of course, we have to implement it because we're on the verge of a public financial collapse. Because it cannot be sustained. And more, parallel to the growing cost of living, there's more and more credit card debt use. So consequently, more credit card debt. Parallel to more credit card debt is, you got it, is parallel to more credit card debt is the fact that the prices keep going up and the salaries are stagnating. So that those three combined economic, financial, commercial pressures for both Canadians and my brothers and sisters in the 50 states make it that my DRT theory, my debt refusion theory has to be implemented in a manner as it is, of course, concordiate to the appellation for the DRT to be implemented as on the table. We have to. There's no choice. We're on the verge of a major public financial collapse. Could happen Monday, full moon coming Thursday, which is gonna last until Sunday, next Sunday. So from the 10th to the 13th, so from Thursday to Sunday, it's special full moon. I'm gonna do a big cleaning before that Wednesday on the 9th of July, because August is the full moon in Leo full moon, and that Leo full moon is something which we have to be consequentially on the establishment thereof. So that is consequently something which we have to be admitted to do. So it's something which we have to be advised upon that. So something which we have to consequently be on the side of things, so that is what we gotta do. So here we are, the DRT, the debt refusion theory. We're gonna take all the public and the private debt. We're gonna refuse it. All the public private debt, we're gonna add it, of course, to the United States public private debt. All that debt is gonna be creating a new central bank. All a new central bank by the DRT. So all the public private debt is gonna be the initial money supply for this new central bank, whence we're going to issue a new currency which we're going to call the UE, the Universal Exchange Unit. The Universal Exchange is going to have the value of the US dollars, So we're going to have this new currency, the UE, U.Universal, E.Exchange, U.Unit. The Universal Exchange Unit, which of course will have the value of the US dollar. We're going to create a new passport. We're going to get rid of the border, mass finance citizens fitness, working out, training, exercising, mass finance people to work out, mass finance citizens to train, mass finance the rebuilding of the North American, Canada, United States infrastructure, aqueducts, the sewers, construct 44 tunnels. Build and construct 44 tunnels. In case of a thermonuclear war, we got to start building and parallel implement the North American Criminal Rehabilitation Act. And that's all we're going to have to do. Create the two complementary covenant and cooperative institutions. The Dragon Army, aka North American Imperial SSD Legion only, and only to serve for SD security, service, and defense. Only for SSD. You can see fireflies round about here. Wow, it's been rare. I haven't seen so many in years and years and years. There's a post-COVID rebirth, and that's what we're gonna get doing, with some life, Life. So yours truly gotta sing that rock and roll and the DRT, that refusion theory, for the creation of the UE. We're gonna build those 44 tunnels, mass finance citizens fitness, mass finance exercise, mass finance people to work out, mass finance people to train, mass finance people to exercise, mass finance rebuilding of the infrastructure, mass finance more building of hydroelectric dams, and build 4 on the Canadian-US border, the North American People's Imperial Coliseum, to be 11 times bigger than the current arena of the NFL and other sports venues, known as the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans. Caesar Superdome used to be known as the Mercedes-Benz, and before that was Louisiana Dome, and it changed names just like I changed names myself. Adrian H. Dragon, nobody's born a dragon, took blood, sweat, and tears to turn that into a no. Where the Harbor Bowl, one of my top 5 favorite Super Bowls, was played, also known as the Blackout Ball. where the Blackout Bowl, aka Super Bowl, was played. And here in the back of the Belvedere, you can see where to build the House of the Dragon, Scarlet, Crimson, Scarlet, and the Pyramid, and the Forgotten Goddess Temple, and the North American People's Imperial Coliseum to be 11 times bigger than the current Caesar Superdome, where my 49ers lost during that Super Bowl, or to the Ravens, one of my top favorite Super Bowls, and didn't lose by a lot, but it was 34-31. Harbor Bowl, aka Bro Bowl, aka Super Bowl 47, Super Bowl 47, also known as the Blackout Bowl, Harbor Bowl, Bro Bowl, and several other nicknames, just like I got many nicknames. Hello, General, Dick, greatest cuckold, CUCK, greatest cuckold in the universe, blah blah. Adrian Hanna, dragon, androgynous, pansexual artist, happy philosopher. The DRT on the table, you cannot argue too much with that. We have to implement it, and we have to create these two complementary covenant cooperative institutions. We're going to do a great census, a North American census, see who can serve in the Dragon Army and the Dancing Goddess Army, which we're going to build for the environment, environmental education and army. Environmental education and action, of course, goes hand in hand, and see we're going to do a census across the 63, 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories. We're going to get rid of the border. We got to focus security coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We got to focus on security coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We got to focus on security, service and defense, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We got to focus on security, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. We gotta get that coast to coast, ocean to ocean, build new super massive structures, and calling on my astrological brother Scorpio, Bill Gates, to build the infrastructure, Renewals Act, and of course to support the PPP, BlackRock and Blackstone are two financial institutions which are private, so it takes a private-public partnership in order to implement the DRT. And across the 63, we're gonna have mass centers where citizens can go and look at telescreens and see all the economic, social, cultural activities, and see where they can go engaged, and see if they're eligible for some tourism, for some travel in the coming days, weeks, months ahead. And we're gonna have a social credit scores and initiatives for people to encourage them to work out, to train, to exercise, for fitness, to work out, train, exercise, for fitness. Citizens for fitness, for working out, citizens for dancing, for the DGA, and environmental cleaning operation, and see everything that's coming in and going out via the ports and the airports. So it's going to be the citizen integration tree. We're going to implement also the new 911, because 911 is for both Canada and the United States. We're going to convert the police forces integrated with the Dragon Army to be for total security, total service, total defense, to be for total security, total service, total defense in the new restructured manner, in a public-private partnership manner, for the 21st century collective, of course. Black, white, and rainbow, we're going to get that drill, and that's what we're going to be doing as a massive public-private partnership across the North American collective right here, saluting the bakers, the butchers, the breakers, the nurses, the doctors, firefighters, electricians, plumbers, public workers now, the public bus drivers, metro drivers across the big cities, the USA plus Canada. But it's July 4th, so I got that special focus on my brothers and sisters in the United States, whence I lived three different incarnations post 7076, once as a woman, twice as a man. That is what it's got to be, once as a woman, twice as a man, and that's why we got to get that living, and read George Patton, 3 Glass Darkly, and that's why we got to philosophize and be around about it. Pledge your allegiance to our family. That's how we're going to manifest the DRT into, of course, implementing it. It takes the implementation of my DRT. Again, there's no way around what's happening now but the implementation of my DRT. That's what you need to remember, and know consequently, internally and interiorly, as much as you can integrate that. Of course, the 3 pressures on the economy and the majority of the population is both the public and the private. And then, as just yesterday, it was in the news that massive public service cuts in Canada are coming. I warned for years. I've been warning for months, especially. I've been warning about this. I said it's the too much interest, too much the COVID situation, the coronavirus, too much spending, and we have to say 85% of our economy depends on the United States market. My brothers and sisters, the king is absent. I have been challenging Trump to a boxing match since 2018. As much as I'm no MAGA supporter, no Trump supporter, but I am for fusing with the United States. My way, the Dragon Way, best. Public-private partnership, a third party to unite. Canada, United States, and the Imperial SSD Security Service and Defense Legion for the North American Collective. Best, my DRT theory, majority of citizens living in over-indebtedness. There's too much accumulated debt. It's not sustainable. That's what you have to comprehend fully. We cannot sustain the current levels. It cannot increase because the prices keep increasing. So that's why we have to implement the DRT, the debt refusion theory, which integrates monetary integration theory, and which of course the Europeans implemented, as I explained a priori during these past minutes. So revise it, check it out, and this is the 4th of July gift with that rock and roll. I'm gonna switch it a bit to that French, and that's how we're gonna get doing for the love, and doing, of course, takes loving also, because otherwise it's not only that, but something which we have to consequentially make the decision to implement as soon as possible. As soon as possible. You cannot be taught it. It's already too much stress, economic, financial, commercial stress. The increasing credit cards, record credit card debt for both Canadians and my brothers and sisters in the USA. So Canada and the United States in a similar position, and the prices keep increasing on both sides of the border. Now the new tariff war, what's going to happen after the 3 months expires on July 9th. Today's the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, just before, one day before the full moon. So when I do my big cleaning, if Trump imposes 50, 60, 70%, a week later it might be prices going up again. So pledge your allegiance to our family, which, regardless of all other externals, this following declaration is geopolitics only. Us as Quebecers, Canadians, and my brothers and sisters in the USA, it's a reciprocal relations. Our common interest, number one, when it comes to foreign external relations, non-domestic affairs. So not to be confused with domestic internal affairs of the country of Canada or United States Federation. And of course, our main interest in regards to the external affairs, geopolitical affairs, is to have the best, most cordial economic, financial, social, diplomatic relations, defense relations, social, cultural relations with each other. That was a constant in the 20th century, and that's a constant now, today, and it will be in the 21st century. That's just like the pi, the pi symbol, mathematical symbol, which represents, of course, the relation between the ratio. It's not actually very much a ratio, diameter, circumference for the circle, right? The area. It's always 3.1415, and then it keeps on going ad infinitum. So it's a constant. The pi symbol is that n with double-headed n with two heads, that type of n with two heads, that type of n with two heads, which is the representation of the mathematical symbol, which relates the circle, the diameter, circumference, and the area of the circle, right, to calculate. So that is a constant. That's our constant that we have to strive, both Canada and the United States, vice versa. Canadians with the United States with Canada, have the best economic, financial, commercial, social, cultural, diplomatic, defense relations, military relations, security relations, cultural relations, social relations, economic, financial, commercial, business relations, trade relations with each other. First and foremost, there's no way out of that. The king is absent. We're gonna ship them to the king of the ocean. Off you go. Hey, up towards the Atlantic bayou swim, maybe. I don't know. Take the planes, whatever. We need to get the 63 Imperial SSD. We need to implement the DRT. The king is absent. King is an absentee landlord, and our Prime Minister, nothing personal, Mr. Carney, but pledging allegiance to the King of England, an absentee landlord. An absentee landlord, an absentee landlord. It's been more than 44 years, more than 44 years, more than 50 years since last time on the throne of speech. And we gotta get that new defensive dragon army. Nobody's born a dragon, you become one. And the Imperial Dragon Army for the 63, coast to coast, ocean to ocean. And you can come here from NATO. Come train with us here. We got plenty of space, plenty of resources, and the fusion with the American population, our brothers and sisters, we're going to become one under the stars on earth. And all who come to join us in the Imperial Kingdom, the Democratic Republic under the stars on earth. We're going to have the new Imperial Constitution. And we can strive to be world citizens. And after we establish the bipolar new peace, world order of peace, the new bipolar order of peace, peace through strength. I support it 50%, you already know. I don't support it fully, not for the 63, not for the fusion of the Emperor Kingdom, because we're distinct, not divorced from Western civilization. I understand it because I predicted the geopolitical conflagration as a geopolitical theoretical analyst, theorist, and strategist. Warfare and so is part of the studies, and geopolitics, primary study, conflicts, wars, and etc., 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 etc. And now we're vulnerable because we made decisions to supply weapons and foreign powers, powerful foreign actors. Maybe they're part of BRICS. They might support the internal fomentation of unrest and employing criminal underworld organizations You can employ criminal underworld to create destruction, havoc, and riots and sabotage here across the 10 provinces, 50 states, 3 territories, which are going to merge into the Imperial 63. So that is always something which can happen, right? It's a possibility of occurring. So that's why we have to fuse as soon as possible and implement my strategy here from Mount Royal. Let's sign the public private partnership, public security institutions, organizations. It's going to launch the 2 new complementary covenant and cooperative institutions, and we're going to have access to all the motels, hotels, and all the fast food to have food security, transportation security, coast to coast, ocean to ocean, and housing for these 2 new institutions. Housing, transport, and of course some food security, so that there's no abuse. We have to be kind of just with it, We're not gonna get 44 cheeseburgers per day or hamburgers per day, and we gotta open them up and get coast to coast, ocean to ocean. Here we're a new collective, and we're gonna take all the institutions, all the big tech, all the big banks, public-private partnership institutions, and that's what we're gonna get doing with that here from the mountain, as we're gonna sign. Let's do it September 11th. The new Imperial Constitutional Act for the fusion, the 63. Adding the new states into a new constitution is going to be the new Imperial Constitution, because it has to be revived from the 21st century and the geopolitical realities which we are now, and which of course consequently adding 13 new states and fusing with us. We're going to add 50 and you're going to add 13. See it like that. We're going to add 50. We're going to be a federation, Imperial Republican Democratic Federation, but also going to add 50. So we're adding 50, United States is adding 13. We're adding mass population, my brothers and sisters, the 340 million. You're adding some population, 44 million, plus big territory. So we're adding also big territory and big population, but you're adding way more territory, but less population. So we're adding 50 to us. You get it? North and south. So that's just what we do. And now we're going to switch a little bit of that French, and then we're going to get on that rock and roll, So... Et voilà, Québécois et Québécoises, on est rendu à faire, bien sûr. On est rendu sur la montagne et le Mont-Royal. Je vous encourage à faire l'entraînement physique. L'entraînement physique a été sera ma médecine et thérapie de choix. Donc, en vous encourageant, en vous souhaitant de l'amour, ce jour du 4 juillet, j'étais né dans les États-Unis. J'ai vécu dans d'autres vies, réincarnations aux États-Unis 3 fois après 1776. Une fois, j'étais né femme, 2 fois homme. Quand j'étais né homme, j'ai servi dans la vie, dans l'armée des États-Unis, bien sûr. J'ai servi dans l'armée des États-Unis 2 fois. 150 ans à part. Puis aujourd'hui, le 4 juillet 2025, je suis en crise financière. J'ai pas d'argent beaucoup dans les poches, mais j'ai acheté des sucreries, des gaufres, pour pouvoir que je mange, car le sabbat de mon rêve, le royaume de la déesse et du rang qui danse, qui est fondamentalement un appel à un partenariat public, privé, québécois avec le rock'n'roll, puis je suis autiste, j'ai l'Asperger. Donc dans certaines choses, c'est à cause de cette condition de neurodivergence. Ce n'est pas une maladie mentale. L'Asperger, s'il vous plaît, en grosse SVP, c'est une condition de neurodivergence. Ça fait que je fais partie de cette petite communauté qui est moins d'1%, moins de la moitié d'un pourcentage et à peu près 0,44%. Fait qu'il n'y en a pas bien. Il y en a qui ne savent même pas c'est quoi l'Asperger's, c'est une condition de neurodivergence. Ça fait que nous, les Asperger's, on a des mutations dans le cerveau, on a des mutations. Et à cause de ces mutations, on voit le monde différemment. On a ce qu'on appelle les intérêts spéciaux. Et ces intérêts spéciaux préoccupent le quotidien de notre jour. La routine quotidienne, une routine rituelle comme ça nous préoccupe. Puis quand on s'engage, quand on travaille, quand on étudie dans nos intérêts spéciaux, aussi connus comme obsessifs, mais ça ne rend pas justice à moi-même en tant que citoyen, citoyenne, monsieur, madame, aussi faisant partie de la communauté LGBTQ qui vit avec cette condition aussi connue comme l'Asperger's, de dire bien que c'est des obsessions. Parce qu'obsession, c'est pour vous, les 99,56%, donc vous constituez la majorité des citoyens neurotypiques, puis on doit toujours bâtir des ponts, des petits ponts, des moyens, des gros, des super gros, énormes ponts, des fois, des 4 catégories de ponts, si vous voulez, mais c'est sûr qu'on doit bâtir parce qu'on n'a pas des antagonistes, on n'est pas antagonistes envers la société neurotypique, puis vous autres, ben, il y en a qui sont des fois antagonistes, là, mais ça dépend bien sûr de cas par cas, puis de citoyen par citoyenne dans le point de vue où qu'on est rendu, bien sûr, à dire que c'est pas une relation antagoniste là, qu'on a, tu sais. C'est une relation qui doit se bâtir par des ponts, puis la compréhension, qu'est-ce que c'est l'Asperger's, qu'est-ce que c'est pas l'Asperger's, c'est cette condition de neurodivergence, c'est pas une maladie mentale, ça fait que à cause des mutations dans le cerveau, nous, on voit le monde différemment, et on a de la misère dans certaines choses, on a plus de difficultés dans les interactions sociales, puis 3 problèmes que nous, les Aspis, cette petite communauté d'Asperger's et de neurodivergents, c'est le manque d'amis, on n'a pas bien des amis, puis juste maintenant, le 4 juillet 2025, la fête de l'indépendance des États-Unis, ben je vais dire, j'ai des amis avec bénéfice seulement, soit prêtez allégeance les gens, vous êtes famille, prêtez allégeance les gens, vous êtes famille, prêtez allégeance les gens, prêtez allégeance les gens, vous êtes famille, prêtez allégeance les gens, vous êtes famille, c'est pas mal ça la chanson, donc c'est ça que je veux dire, bien sûr, pour vous dire, puis soutenez mon rêve qui se manifeste comme le royaume de la déesse et du dragon qui danse. J'ai beaucoup de gratitude à dire, car j'ai reçu, c'est sûr que je suis déjà dans le rouge parce que car j'ai payé déjà mon loyer le 1er juillet, j'ai payé mon loyer, j'ai payé la facture d'électricité à l'heure de Québec la semaine prochaine, mardi avant la pleine lune de jeudi qui va rester de 10 en 10, le 10 juillet ça commence, puis ça finit dimanche le 13 juillet, fait que j'ai 3 jours de fête de la pleine lune que je chante des chansons rock'n'roll à poil peut-être, tout nu en minuit à la déesse quand j'étais prêtresse de la déesse dans une autre vie comme je suis dans cette vie quand je danse. Dans une vie j'étais né québécoise ici entre 1688 et 1735 et dans une autre vie j'ai servi dans la SPVM. Quand j'étais né homme, des fois j'étais né femme, des fois homme, des fois femme, des fois homme, de l'ancien empire romain, des romaines dans la prêtresse, jusqu'à aujourd'hui québécoise de l'an 1700, fait que c'est pas québécoise de comment on se trouve au 20e siècle, à l'être des Québécois d'aujourd'hui du 20e siècle, mais c'était en 1700. Donc, d'autres vies de réincarnation à part, c'est d'autres histoires, mais oui, comme George Patton, puis bien d'autres mystiques, des guides spirituels ou qui sont à la recherche de la spiritualité, moi-même un mystique, moi j'ai vécu bien des réincarnations, bien sur l'île de Montréal. Comme femme, comme homme, j'étais né ici, ici, aux États-Unis, 3 fois après 1776, une fois femme, 2 fois homme. J'ai servi même dans l'armée des États-Unis, dans 2 guerres différentes, dans d'autres vies réincarnations. Aujourd'hui, votre Aspi avec Asperger's, citoyen, monsieur, madame, artiste, athlète, philosophe, analyste intéressé en géopolitique, je dois dire que j'ai prévu la situation actuelle qui se déroule en ce moment, je l'ai prévu en 2019, en octobre-novembre, j'ai prévu en 2019, en octobre, en novembre. Fait que, ayant prévu cette situation, bien sûr, qui se déroule en ce moment de la géopolitique, c'est quelque chose que je dois moi-même vous dire, puis c'est sûr que c'est quelque chose que ça intéresse, j'ai un intérêt, bien sûr, concentré, super intense, c'est mon intérêt spécial. Je le suis moi-même, je me considère un artiste, philosophe, et analyste, théoricien et stratège. Mes stratégies pour la géopolitique sont pour ce que j'appelle le collectif de la civilisation de l'Amérique du Nord. Donc ici, on a fait le grand compromis du français pour avoir la continuité de la paix et de l'harmonie. Et tous ceux qui viennent nous rejoindre ont quand même une responsabilité de partager ce langage et faire notre effort aussi si on veut que les gens, bien sûr, l'adoptent, puis l'intègrent, puis l'aiment aussi, l'amour du français, parce que sinon, j'en parlais pas. Je serais parti, bien sûr, je n'aurais pas aimé. Je considère comme ma famille, bien sûr, même si, en tout cas, de retour, je vous considère comme ma famille, le Québec, le Caucase, le Canada, puis les États-Unis ensemble dans le grand collectif pour l'Empire du 21e siècle qu'on va constituer ensemble. Et bien sûr, c'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut qu'on se donne, bien sûr, vis-à-vis les choses qu'on a en commun, puis qui nous reste en tant que concitoyens, qu'il faut qu'on se fusionne, bien sûr, dans ce grand compromis de concordat qu'on vient faire ensemble, dans ce statut qu'on est rendu, bien sûr, à être proche de la Troisième Guerre mondiale, qui disent qu'elle est commencée déjà. J'ai prévu en tant que... J'ai la géopolitique en tant qu'intérêt spéciaux. Donc, c'est ça que je fais quand je m'engage au quotidien, intense, des fois super concentré, super dedans. Puis, encore une fois, le problème chez les Aspis, c'est le manque d'amis aussi. C'est aussi le problème chez nous, chez ma communauté, cette petite communauté d'Asperger, c'est la dépression puis le suicide. C'est des tendances extrêmes. Puis, moi-même, pendant un coup d'année, j'étais en dépression, j'étais suicidaire. Puis, j'ai traversé le Canada de côte à côte en 2017. Puis, cet événement, ça m'a vraiment fait sortir de ma dépression. C'est là que j'ai fait comme un réveil, puis je me suis dit à moi-même, j'ai tellement de choses à faire, à voir, puis j'ai commencé à établir un esprit de corps solide avec le Québec, le Canada, les États-Unis. Bien sûr, depuis ce temps-là, j'ai commencé à m'entraîner, puis je fais de l'entraînement physique au quotidien quasiment, puis sans que je me repose la fin de semaine, là, mais j'ai perdu entre 80 et 93 livres. Fait qu'en août 2017, ça va faire 8 ans dans un mois, je suis allé à Vancouver, Colombie-Britannique, puis en septembre 2016, je suis allé à Halifax, Nouvelle-Écosse. Fait que cet événement, ça m'a complètement changé ma vie. Ça m'a complètement changé ma vie. Fait que bien sûr, cet événement, ça m'a vraiment complètement changé toute ma vie. Et depuis ce temps-là, bien sûr, j'ai eu comme un réveil. C'est ça le problème. C'est 9 fois plus, hein, le taux de suicide puis de dépression, c'est 9 fois plus chez les Aspergers, les Aspis comme moi, les neurodivergents. Et un autre problème, c'est que c'est inacceptable que 80% des citoyennes avec l'Asperger's, aussi connu comme l'autisme hautement fonctionnel, mais moi j'utilise quand même encore d'appeler l'Asperger's, que ce que j'ai moi-même comme condition. C'est pas une maladie mentale, on a des mutations au niveau microscopique, là, c'est pas visible sur le cerveau, mais il y a certaines mutations, variations de mutations microscopiques au niveau microscopique du cerveau. C'est pour ça que de certaines choses, on a de la misère dans la compréhension sociale. Mais quand ça vient au taux du sans-emploi, le chômage, c'est 80%, là. Vous imaginez-vous que c'est 80%? Fait que c'est 80%, là. 4 sur 5, là. 80%. Imaginez-vous, là, de ça. 80%, c'est 4 sur 5, 0,8. 8 sur 10, 90 sur 100. Mais il n'y en a pas bien, là. Fait que je peux pas aller dans les 1000, là, parce qu'il y en a qui ne savent même pas c'est quoi l'Asperger. Je dois leur expliquer, puis leur dire un peu c'est quoi quand ils ne savent pas les citoyens pour pas qu'ils s'inquiètent, parce que certaines caractéristiques, des fois, bien sûr, ça peut causer de l'angoisse. C'est-à-dire que, tu sais, le bruit de l'espace personnel, des fois, les Asperger, nous, on a tendance de s'approcher vraiment proche de la personne, là, à 2-3 pouces. Fait que ça peut inquiéter, tu sais, les gens, mais c'est quoi cette affaire-là, tu sais, ça peut causer de l'angoisse. Fait que c'est juste me le dire. Nous, les Asperger, il faut nous le dire, parce que certaines choses, on ne comprend pas, mais, tu sais, mettons, dans le langage, vous avez dit, ben, va-t'en de site. Nous, on va s'en aller vraiment, on va prendre ça peut-être littéralement, tu sais. Fait que c'est compréhension sociale. Vous allez demander à un Asperger comment tu vas, puis je vais dire, bah, ça va pas si bien, comme ça. Puis l'Asperger va commencer à parler de ça. Puis ça va être une réponse on s'entend que dire comment ça va, quand même, c'était établi que tu dois dire ça va, puis ça va, toi. Des choses comme ça, mais quand ça va pas, mais l'Asperger, comme je le dis, tu sais. Bon, je suis en crise financière, je suis pas bon d'une manière financière, fait que ces choses-là, tu sais, pour le faire, bien sûr, dans ces choses-là, pour avoir, bien sûr, dans la condition, bien sûr, que vous faites de la compréhension de qu'est-ce que c'est, bien sûr, cet engagement, bien sûr, de le faire, bien sûr, de la compréhension, puis bâtir toujours des ponts. Fait que ces choses-là, le sans-emploi, avoir pas c'est 80%, là, de sans-emploi chez les Asperger, donc c'est inacceptable quand même, il faut le dire vraiment. C'est inacceptable dans cette situation de le faire ou que je suis moi-même, tu sais, que je vis avec l'Asperger. Donc, c'est mettre en considération ces choses-là, bien sûr, qui sont différentes des neurotypiques. Bon, là, je vais discuter de la TRD. C'est le plus important que je discute bien vite, là. théorie de la refusion de la dette. Alors, je vais m'hydrater un peu parce que c'est ça, je vous présente la table. Puis c'est un paradoxe, mais je la mets la solution, bien sûr, pour la mettre dans la solution de où qu'on est rendu à faire, puis à voir certaines solutions de où qu'on vit. Fait que je suis ici, je vais m'hydrater un peu, juste patienter un peu, je vais entendre un peu que ça coule, l'eau que ça coule, là, parce que, tu sais, je suis ici, puis au Belvédère, en arrière du Belvédère, là, sur Mont-Royal. Fait que je vais attendre à peu près, je vais attendre 20 secondes. D'habitude, j'attends 20 secondes, là, pour que ça sorte, tu sais, 20 secondes, tu sais. Fait que 20 secondes. Fait que si j'attends un peu, là, que ça tombe, avant que je m'hydrate. Avant que je m'hydrate, j'attends à peu près 20 secondes, là, puis ça coule, puis couler là un peu. Just a little. Repos. On s'hydrate un peu, puis là je vais discuter de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Let's go. Eh ben, là je vais discuter de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est ça, bien sûr, qu'on va faire dans la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Il faut qu'on fasse l'implémentation de la TRD, car au fait qu'aujourd'hui, on vit dans une crise. Et bien sûr, cette crise s'approche de plus en plus, car à chaque jour, bien sûr, il y a de l'augmentation, bien sûr, du coût de la vie. Fait que le coût de la vie, ça n'arrête pas d'augmenter. Fait que c'est ça le problème fondamentalement où qu'on se retrouve aujourd'hui. C'est le coût de la vie, ça n'arrête pas d'augmenter. Et donc c'est pour ça que je dis bien sûr qu'il faut faire l'implémentation de la TRD. Qu'est-ce que c'est la TRD? C'est la théorie de la refusion de la dette. La TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est bien sûr la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est bien sûr cette théorie pour dire que on doit faire l'implémentation de cette théorie, car il y a 3 pressions économiques, financières, commerciales qui peuvent nous mettre dans un point de problématique. Donc, on est déjà rendu à cause que on est puis ça s'applique pour le Canada et les États-Unis ensemble. Il y a un surendettement, donc les cartes de crédit, il y a ce surendettement, tu sais. Il y a ce surendettement, fait que ce surendettement, c'est quelque chose, bien sûr, que ça va de plus en plus pire, à cause qu'à chaque jour, même aujourd'hui, j'ai remarqué encore des augmentations là, des prix au magasin. Fait que ça s'applique pour le Canada et les États-Unis, le surendettement. Puis bien sûr, la hausse des prix. La hausse des prix, c'est le pain, le beurre, le fromage, le pain, ça n'arrête pas. Sauf les salaires n'augmentent pas. C'est ça le problème fondamentalement. Là. Fait que laissez de côté mes problèmes, que je suis en crise financière, et je vous mets sur la table la solution avec les bisous puis les bisous puis les bisous puis les chatouilles, bien sûr. Avec les bisous puis les chatouilles, bien sûr. Ici, dans le tunnel, la terre des théories de la refusion de la dette québécois, les met dans les airs, la rock'n'roll. Donc la terre des théories de la refusion de la dette, théorie de la refusion de la dette, la théorie de la refusion de la dette. Ben, pas de problème, rock'n'roll. Puis bien sûr, c'est ce grand compromis, bien sûr, qu'on fait, bien sûr, dans ce point de vue, pour l'être, bien sûr, ici, avec l'analyse qu'on est rendu, bien sûr, de la TRD, bien sûr, c'est quelque chose que je dois dire moi-même, que je suis fier de cette théorie, parce que c'est la solution qui va nous sortir, bien sûr, du problème qu'on est rendu, bien sûr, au point de vue d'avoir une conséquence, bien sûr, géopolitique et majeure du Canada et des États-Unis, possiblement un effondrement, bien sûr, un effondrement, bien sûr, d'avoir cette histoire, bien sûr, de l'effondrement où qu'on est rendu, bien sûr, dans ce point de vue de problème. Bon, c'est la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. C'est quelque chose, bien sûr, qui m'a fait voir, bien sûr, les choses pour que ça soit à l'extrême, dans ce point de vue qu'il y a une simplicité quand même, où qu'on peut avoir une résolution, quand même, par l'implémentation de la TRD. Mais encore une fois, sinon ma TRD en tant que telle, quelque chose qui ressemble, car on ne peut pas arrêter, là, ça ne s'arrête pas. Il faut qu'on mette fin à ça, parce que c'est argument, les salaires stagnent. Il y a une stagnation des salaires. C'est pour ça qu'il y a de plus en plus de grèves partout, tu sais, les dernières années que ça se retrouve. Mais les prix n'arrêtent pas d'augmenter. Là. Juste tantôt, je veux dire, ça a augmenté de 5 un lunch, une boîte à lunch que j'ai acheté avant, qu'on avait à 5 puis là, c'est monté à 7 l'année passée, puis là, c'est rendu 9. Là. 9 piastres. Fait que de 5 à 9, c'est quand même un gros pourcentage. Fait que la TRD, ça contient, là, dans ma théorie, la théorie d'intégration monétaire. Fait que dans la théorie d'intégration monétaire, c'est la théorie que les Européens ont fait de l'implémentation dans les années 90 en Europe. Fait que bien sûr, maintenant, je vous l'explique. Fait que dans ma TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, est intégrée cette théorie que les Européens ont fait dans les années 90, quand les Allemands, les Belges, en Belgique, en France, en Italie, ont détruit leur banque centrale, ils ont fait de la création d'une banque commune. Donc, on va faire pareil pour le Canada et les États-Unis ensemble. C'est la TRD, ça fait partie de ma stratégie bipolaire. Quand je dis là, ma stratégie géopolitique bipolaire pour la domination du 20e siècle impérial de la fusion du Canada et des États-Unis ensemble par la TRD, par ma théorie de la refusion de la dette. Ne pas confondre ça avec bipolaire du point de vue de la psychiatrie ou de la psychologie. Quand je dis la théorie bipolaire, je me fais référence à cette stratégie que je viens de faire référence vis-à-vis de la stratégie bipolaire géopolitique. C'est juste de la géopolitique, ça n'a rien à voir avec la psychologie, la psychiatrie, la bipolarité, c'est la stratégie bipolaire. Ça veut dire du Canada, des États-Unis, par l'implémentation de ma trinité de théorie, la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, la théorie d'intégration citoyenne et la théorie d'intégration citoyenne, la théorie de la fusion démocratique. Donc, on va faire ensemble cette partie-là ensemble. Fait que la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, je vous l'explique maintenant. On va prendre toute la dette publique-privée, mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, toute la dette publique-privée, et mon 10 000, ton 10 000. Toute cette dette-là, on va faire de la refusion ensemble. On va faire, bien sûr, une refusion. Fait qu'on va faire la création d'une nouvelle monnaie. Toute la dette publique, incluant mon 10 000, ton 10 000, son 10 000, de côte à côte. Toute cette dette-là, bien sûr, on va faire la refusion ensemble. Et bien sûr, on va faire la refusion ensemble. On va faire la conversion. On va faire l'addition de toute la dette publique privée canadienne, incluant mon 10 000 à la Banque Royale. J'ai pas de carte de crédit moi-même, j'ai une ligne de crédit. Donc, à la Banque Royale, j'ai 10 000 à peu près de dette. C'est 9 900. 9 900. Fait que à 100 de 10 000, là, mais 10 000, on va dire, faire l'arrondissement. Fait que toute la dette de côte à côte, on va faire la conversion dans la dette, dans la monnaie des États-Unis. Fait que toute notre dette publique privée ensemble, on va faire l'addition de toute la dette publique canadienne, on va faire la conversion ainsi après de cette dette-là, toute la dette cumulative public, privé, des citoyens, puis du Canada. Fait que cette dette-là, on va faire, bien sûr, toute la dette publique privée, on va faire la conversion dans la devise des États-Unis Avec cet argent-là, on va faire l'addition avec la dette publique des États-Unis. Cet argent-là, ça va fonder une nouvelle banque. Cet argent-là, ça va fonder une nouvelle banque. Comment qu'on l'appelle, ça ne dérange pas vraiment comment qu'on l'appelle. Ça va être la banque de l'Amérique du Nord. Avec cette banque de l'Amérique du Nord, on va faire la création de l'unité d'échange universelle. UI. On ne s'ostinera pas en anglais, c'est pareil. UI. Unité d'échange universel. U.unité, point échange, point universel. U.unité, point échange universel. U.unité, point échange universel. U.unité, point échange universel, l'unité d'échange universel, UI. U.unité, point échange, U.point universel, l'unité d'échange universel, d'échange universel, c'est l'unité d'échange universel, c'est quelque chose bien sûr qu'on va mettre en fonction bien sûr dans le domaine d'avoir bien sûr un questionnement, d'avoir de la prudence là-dessus, mais on va faire la création de l'unité d'échange universel, donc c'est quelque chose bien sûr qu'on va faire bien sûr vis-à-vis cette théorie, on va faire l'implémentation de la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette. Puis on va faire la création de l'unité d'échange universel. L'unité d'échange universel aura la valeur du dollar des États-Unis. Des États-Unis. L'unité d'échange universel. On va rebâtir l'infrastructure du collectif de l'Amérique du Nord, du nouveau empire. On va finir avec la frontière, on va créer un passeport commun, on va créer la création de l'unité d'échange universelle, on va bâtir plus de centrales Hydro-Québec. Plus de centrales d'Hydro-Québec, bien sûr. C'est des choses, bien sûr, qu'il faut que je fasse moi-même. Fait que la création de cette nouvelle monnaie, bien sûr, c'est quelque chose qu'on doit le faire. La création, c'est pas d'aventure dans la forêt, tu sais. En tout cas, et voilà, on est rendu au sommet du Mont-Royal. Si vous rentrez sur le côté, juste faites attention dans la forêt, les branches tombent. Fait que si vous êtes en risque, vous êtes mieux de rester ici. Vous êtes mieux de rester ici quand même. Parce que moi, je connais la forêt, là, mais si vous n'êtes pas aventuré, tu sais. Bon, fait que la TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, bien sûr, c'est quelque chose que je dois faire l'implémentation, moi aussi, tu sais. Moi aussi, ça commence avec nous. Fait que TRD, théorie de la refusion de la dette, c'est quelque chose qu'il faut que je fasse, bien sûr, dans ce compromis, bien sûr, d'avoir, bien sûr, de la consistance, tu sais. Here we go. Here we go. Let's go for the cadence. What time is it? Get ready for the cadence. Rock and roll cadence. Cadence, we're gonna go on that cadence. On the cadence, on the left, on the right, and on the setter. We're gonna go for that upset. Cadence. Rock and roll. Gonna check a little bit of that good. And that's how we're gonna get on that go. You know? There we go. That's the pyramid, you know? Little rice bowl. Little rice bowl. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's do some stretching. Back into the wilderness we go. I guess I'm gonna be the only one in the forest. Let's stay here. Back in the wilderness. Back in the wilderness. Back in the wild. There's no back in the wilderness. Ready for that cadence? Yeah, ready. Cadence for the Empire for the 4th of July. Get ready. Dragon army on the go. As we march up in steel toes. For the free and for the brave. For the free and for the brave. This one's for the free. This one's for the brave. This one's for the loving. This one's for the free. This one's for the brave. Cadence. Dragon Army only cadence. For the Dragon Army. Use only if you're an allied army. For the free and for the brave. For the free. For the brave. Dragon Army cadence. 4th of July special. Dedicated to brothers and sisters in the USA. Bring the Marines over here. Gonna do some, sing some cadence. United States Marine Forces. Send the Marines over here, Mr. Pig Hexet, and have them a little bit of good training. Bring them here. Bring the Marines. For the free and for the brave. Yes, we're gonna turn, we're gonna go right into the wilderness, right into the forest, on the mountain, right here. Take it to the left, see? In 3, 2, 1, and we're gonna be the only ones, right here. For the free and for the brave. For the loving that we say. For the free and for the brave. For the free and for the brave. And for the loving that we said. In the darkness there's light. That you go we out of sight. In the darkness, in the darkness. In the darkness. For the free and for the brave. 4th of July. My brothers and sisters in the 50 from the wilderness. Happy birthday. With LOV from General Dragon. For the free and for the brave. Hey, across the 50. That we be, soon to be 63. Across the 50 plus the 30. We gotta be, and that you see. For the free and the brave. In the darkness that we lay. That you know we gotta say. And you know we gotta pray. We don't pray to no dollars. We the dragon army cadence. Hey. For the free and for the brave. That's the army dragon slayer. And you know we gotta sing it. For the free and for the brave. Gonna do a special cadence. Special marching cadence. Now I gotta go downhill, so put those knees down a bit. We don't wanna fall. We might slip, but we don't fall. For the free and for the brave. For the loving, for the truckers, for the bakers and the butchers. Nurses, doctors, plumbers, and those train conductors. Gotta be and that you see. Gotta see so that you be. Dragonomic cadence. Follow the pattern.